Welcome to All the Things TV video podcast with me, Tiffany Jo Baker, where we help you grip God's grace, use your gifts, and get your goals, even in your mess and mission. This is our Unstuck and Unstoppable Season 3 series, where we talk about the stories, strategies, and steps we need to break through the stuff that is holding us back and move forward in all the things God has called and created us to do. Hello, y'all, and welcome back to All the Things TV with Tiffany Jo Baker. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that a lot of you may be new to. Because of COVID-19 and the pandemic, we have found that a lot of people are now working from home. And so finding work-life balance when you work from home can be a little bit tricky. So we're starting and we're into season 3 right now of helping you get unstuck and unstoppable. And so today we're going to be talking about finding that work-life balance. And so I brought on here Marva Smith. Marva, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yay, Tiffany. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. And Marva is joining us from the Caribbean. She's a leadership strategist, a work-life strategist, and the author of the best-selling book, Time to Thrive. So I think she can really add some great nuggets to this. Even in my brief study of where the world is at right now with working from home, working remotely, I found some statistics that say that 60% of people are really putting work-life balanced right up there with salary. It's that important to people right now. And those who are now working remotely from home, 70% of us working from home are working on weekends too, because it's hard to find that cutoff because you're constantly in your office.
Yes.
So Marva, just to get us started, how did you really get into this space in the area of speaking into helping women find that their sweet spot to be able to thrive with work, life, and faith?
It really came from my own struggles with work-life balance and trying to do all the things, because it was at a point in my life where I felt like there was so many things calling for my attention. I wanted to be a good wife, a good mom, a good Christian woman, all the things, right? And advance in my career. And it was just so many things. And I felt pulled in a million directions. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate, Tiffany, because nowadays we find ourselves in that space, right? Even more than before, because of the fact that more of us are working from home, and so the lines are blurred. And it's difficult to separate the two things, work and life. And I've gotten to a point where I look at it more as work-life synergy as opposed to balance, because I always say balance is overrated. We put so much stock in trying to get that balance that when we don't achieve it, we feel like we've failed. So we can talk about that some more, but certainly it was through my own struggles that I became more consumed and more focused on finding that for myself and helping my clients, achieve that as well.
I love that, because I know, like, even just reading your bio and all that God is having you do, I'm like, you are a go-getter. Like you have, God has been using you big and showing up, but yet the cry of your heart, that inner desire, is to find that synergy. And I love that word, because sometimes, we've talked about here on the show before the difference between rhythm and balance. But talk to us, what is synergy in all of this?
Synergy is where all the pieces are working together and complementing each other, as opposed to competing. Because I think with the balance piece, we tend to think that it has to be equal.
Right.
And the reality is we go through different seasons. There are different times in our lives where we're going to be spending more time focused on family, for instance, or maybe we have aging parents, or just different things that are going on. Short term, you might be working on a project that calls for more of your attention in a certain way. There might be a health issue that you're dealing with. So it's what are the main priorities in your life at that point in time? So it's not that all things will be equal, but that they're complementing each other and working together so that you have that sense of peace instead of feeling overwhelmed and hurried and stressed. And, I think all of us can relate to that, but we don't want to live in that space constantly.
Absolutely. I love what you said about synergy because and it's really and you hit on something that I am super big on is knowing what your season is. And that's what you were explaining about when you know what your season is, you know what to give more weight towards
Yeah.
because it won't be balanced. It won't be even. Something else will get thrown in and you're juggling and you will drop something. So it's learning about being able to have those things complement each other
Hmm.
and work together and what to give weight to in that season so you don't feel like
Exactly.
you have to do everything. That's so good. Some of the statistics I showed, if we're working from home, if we're not able to shut off or find that line, um, 70% of people working on weekends because their office is at home. Here's some statistics of what's showing when because we're upping our hours of work and it's showing that 1.66 times more people are suffering from depression,
Hmm.
1.74 times more likely to suffer from anxiety, and 1.3 times more likely to suffer a stroke.
Oh,
So you mentioned that, the stress and the overwhelm, and that's the result. Our body can only handle so much. Our spirit,
yeah.
soul, and bodies were designed a certain way. And when we're out of synergy, out of rhythm, um,
Hmm.
there's going to be an effect. And that's what we're
Hmm.
here to talk about, about how to lessen that. So, what are the biggest obstacles to women, especially those who are working from home, to finding that work life synergy?
One of the things I think is just how we view work from home. Because sometimes you have, friends and family members who think, well, she's working from home. She has all the time in the world.
So true. So true.
Like,
Yes.
what are you doing with your time?
Mhm,
Right? But it's still work. It's now
mhm,
in a different space. But also we buy into that mindset as well because we think, well, now that I'm at home, or maybe you've been working from home all along, there's an expectation that you're going to be more productive, that you're
mhm,
going to be able to get all the things done within the 24 hours. But that's not always the reality.
mhm,
So it's looking at the mindset, both your own and the mindset of the ones around you that
mhm.
might be influencing you and saying, maybe let's look at this a little bit differently. Because I'm sure you've had times where somebody calls and they want you to come and meet for coffee because Tiffany has all the time in the
Yeah,
world. She can
she's at
come and meet
home.
me at
Yeah,
any time.
yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't always work like that. So knowing those boundaries, I believe that's really, really important for yourself, and then
Mhm.
to be able to communicate those things to others so that they can respect your boundaries as well.
That's really good. I have some friends who are working from home and they'll give themselves office hours. I'm in the office this time to this time each
Yeah.
day, break for lunch or whatever it might be, and move on. So those boundaries are so crucial to us and I like what you said, it's not just for other people, but us give for ourselves as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because I have to tell myself all the time, Marva, you're at work. You can't be doing the
Yeah.
dishes and doing the laundry.
Yes. Yes. We get so distracted and I have puppies coming in or, the chocolate chip cookies calling me from the counter or I hear the ding on the laundry machine and I'm like, "Oh, I
Yes.
could just do a load real quick." So you're so
Hmm.
right. You're so right. Okay. I know with working with your clients, um, and your new book, Time to Thrive, you have a Thrive assessment, you have a purpose roadmap, these things that you're using with your clients. So could you maybe share with us 2 to 3 principles that really help women get unstuck and get out from the overwhelm of feeling like they're on call all the time and truly not enjoying any area of their life?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a lot of us can relate to that. The
Mhm,
first thing I would say is being able to take stock. So, when you mentioned the Thrive assessment, it's actually an acronym for Thrive, going through various steps. So, take stock, home in on what's important, reimagine what's possible, identify the obstacles, and
mhm,
envision the victory, and then execute the plan. So, let's just talk about the first two principles there, which is taking stock. A lot of times, if I ask you, how are you doing? You might say, well, yeah, I'm doing okay, I'm doing well, but you don't really
mhm,
go much further beneath the surface. And so, in taking stock, it's really for you to be able to assess all the various areas of your life. We look at 8 areas, your work in your
mhm,
career, your health, your finances, all these things. and really assess how you're doing in those areas. And it's a personal assessment. It's not something that's, somebody else is telling you, but how do you feel you're doing in these areas? Because once you're able to take stock,
Mhm,
then you're able to know what you are going to work on and not feel overwhelmed like there's so many things. Well, no, I maybe if
mhm,
I work on my health, then this is going to be the domino effect in all the other areas, for
mhm,
example. So you start in that one area. The other thing is to be able to home in on what's important. And
mhm,
why this is key is because when we're focused on something that's not in alignment with our values, we get completely stressed out. We get,
mhm.
discouraged. We feel burnt out because we're doing all these things that maybe not lining up with the things that are important to us. So for me, family is super important.
Yeah.
But there was a time in my career where I was giving all of my time to my career and
Mhm.
the late hours and just, it was ridiculous. And I realized that if you say family is important, but you never have time to spend with your kids outside of, picking up from daycare and doing all these things, then there's something wrong. The alignment just wasn't there. So
Mhm.
homing in on what's important based on your values, I think those are the two things. So taking stock and homing in on the important things will really help you move forward and get unstuck.
So good. I love that. And I even on the assessment of taking stock, I think it even encourages us that not every area is not good right now.
Yeah,
Sometimes we think when one or two areas is not good,
yeah,
that everything isn't good. And really when you take stock and you think about the areas of life and you really reflect and take a moment and pause, you realize, you know
hmm,
what, I do have some good things happening on
exactly.
these areas, but it's these one or two things that are screaming, and because they're not in alignment, like you said, with what really matters most to you.
Yeah,
I've had clients before too who will say, honesty is one of my core values, but yet they weren't being honest in their relationships. And so when you
hmm,
really realize that's a wish, that's not necessarily a core value because you're not walking it
yeah,
out. These are really great tools to shine some light and to give some aha moments to be
hmm.
able to make changes.
Yes. And one of the things that I always say to my clients, Tiffany, is now you know.
Mm,
Because now that you know, you can do something about it.
yeah.
Because when you go through an assessment like that, sometimes you can feel like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was doing that badly.
Yeah.
Or yeah, that's doing well, but this one isn't. And we can tend to focus on the negative.
Yeah.
And I say to them, you know what? Now you know, and now you can
Yes.
do something about it. Instead of getting stuck there, do you want that to stay the way it is, or do you
Mhm,
want to work on it? We have choices. So it's just the
mhm.
power of knowledge.
It's powerful. It's like that quote that says you're going to live life by design or by default.
Yeah,
And what you're really doing is taking people through the process of helping them choose a life by design and a
by
life that they
design.
want to love and that they want to live and that leaves a legacy for them and their
Yeah.
family. Okay, so is there a favorite Bible verse or scripture passage that is related to this or that you love the most?
John 10:10, without a doubt, that verse just keeps coming back to me all the time. It's a verse that talks about how the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. And then it
Mhm.
contrasts what Jesus came to do,
Hmm.
which was to give us life to the full. And some
Amen.
verses say for us to have life more abundantly.
Mhm,
And I know that many times we're living full lives, as in busy lives,
mm,
but the life that Jesus came to give me is one that is of abundance,
mm,
where I'm thriving and I'm not just going through the motions and not just, ticking all the boxes and doing all the things, but that I'm really living a life that is purposeful,
mm.
that is meaningful, and that is enjoyable. So that John 10:10, it really speaks to me, and it speaks to the work that I do with my clients and even in the book. And I just love it.
It's one of my favorites too. So I'm glad you picked that one. It's so relevant to this space, and I think in and of itself, that verse is almost an assessment. you can put up to what's happening in your life or what you're feeling, and you can say, is this Jesus or is this the enemy?
Mm-hmm.
Is this
Yeah,
stealing from me or is this giving me the fullness Jesus came? And right there is a
exactly.
great assessment for what you're walking through and
Yeah,
who the author is of it, and if you're supposed to be dealing with it or not. So it's a powerful verse.
it is.
Jesus jam-packed a lot of nuggets into that one John 10:10. He really did. Well, Marva, I know you've got your book, Time to Thrive, and have some amazing resources on your website. I was on there. I was like, this is like my sister. Like, we have just a very similar heart and passion and purpose. And so I want people to know where they can find out more about you and your book. Where should they go?
The first place is probably my website, as you mentioned, marvasmith.com. So that's fairly easy to get to. And then on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all the places, I'm Marva T. Smith. So you could think of that as T for Thrive,
Mm.
Marva T. Smith. And that's where you'll find me on social media. But my website is where I hang out and you share posts and encouragement and all the resources you'll find there as well.
Yeah, there's some great stuff, y'all. So make sure you check it out. And I really hope y'all just enjoy today. And Marva, thank you for sharing with us about how we can find work life synergy even when we work from home. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Tiffany. It's been a pleasure.
All right, y'all. We look forward to seeing you next week and helping you get unstuck and unstoppable in all the things that God has called and created you to do. See you next time. Well, friends, thank you for joining us today on All the Things TV video podcast. If you enjoyed our time together and are taking away a nugget that has inspired your soul and success, would you share this episode with a loved one who could use it too? And if you haven't already, take a moment to rate and review the podcast and help me spread soul care and dream care. Until next time, I'm Tiffany Jo Baker, a 3-time surrogate and strategizer who loves to help you birth your God-given dreams. Now go do all the things you've been called and created to do with the grace and gifts God has given you.